We go to break. We come back. Dude, Renee's in the arena now. Like, she was all over this show.
They're getting their money's worth with Renee.
Oh, my God. She was just all over. So she brings out MJF, and MJF proceeds to do a mock John Moxley. He does a mock walk of John Moxley.
Moxley.
Yes, John Moxley. Very good. I was close on that one.
Sorry.
And then did a John Moxley promo before calling him mid, and said, and he prefaced all this with all due respect. And Renee said, you can't just say with all due respect and then say something disrespectful. And MJF just, boom, with all due respect, shut your mouth, Renee. And this crowd just, they love him. They go nuts for this. He brings up Regal and insinuating that he can't beat John Moxley without using his Dynamite diamond ring. So he promises he will not use this ring at Full Gear, which means maybe he has like a new weapon that he's going to introduce at Full Gear. And he doesn't need the ring. He calls Newark his backyard, and at Full Gear, he is fighting every scumbag that told him he isn't good enough, and he will take the chip off his shoulder and shove it down all of their throats. Stokely Hathaway walks out, which I could have sworn this was strike 3. Didn't he warn him, like, you interrupt me one more time? So he came out to interrupt him, and MJF tells Hathaway he wants John Moxley at 100%, and the firm is not to attack Moxley after the match with Penta tonight. And if he does, he'll be fired, and then ends the segment with his catchphrase. He played total babyface here, and I think we're starting to see the picture is that here is the devil that is just taking all of these fans and just making them so gullible to love him, and he's going to fuck them when it's right. And I think that's where this is all going, and it's going to be the audience that feels totally deceived by this guy at the end.
Right. Because it's MJF, I think that's for a lot of people, for most people, I should say, maybe the first inclination is that this is all being set up for a big swerve later on. But are we discounting the idea that they simply want to get ahead of themselves, knowing MJF will be in Newark, in the New York, New Jersey area, and will very likely be cheered as a major babyface for that particular match?
So I seem to recall the last time, or one of the times they were in New Jersey. Like, didn't he just totally shit on New Jersey, being from Long Island? And now they're trying to make like Newark like his it's my backyard.
He
tried
to babyface himself in Virginia today, and they were loving him. So I don't doubt Newark would cheer him very. I mean, because there's going to be a lot of New York, New Jersey people in attendance, of course. So it's intriguing either way. They're not telling us a straightforward story that we would have expected with a MJF versus John Moxley match. They're definitely setting something different up with MJF. We don't necessarily know whether to cheer or boo him, but it is compelling either way. And it was really interesting to see, this was like a real glimpse of like what a full-on MJF babyface promo might be like. It was also really interesting for me to see like the use of Renee in the segment. It's the first time to my recollection, we've seen her sort of in a position of interviewing one of her husband's immediate rivals.
And just referred to John Moxley. There was no reference of like my husband or MJF calling it out.
Well, she did say John. She said John.
That's his name.
Okay? Yeah, but you're not on a first name basis with somebody in this sort of setting unless you were close to him, right?
Well, I thought it was notable that they didn't have MJF go that direction, because that seemed to just be like, it was almost like you could have used Shivani for this segment for that very reason. If they wanted Renee to be here, but they didn't go that direction.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm perfectly fine. Like, I don't discount the fact that maybe in the future they might, but I thought they were going to, in fact, for this one, and somehow like anger Mox so much that Mox will come out to want to get revenge. But I'm kind of glad they didn't go there.
The firm comes out, and they attack John Moxley, going against the orders of MJF. Stokely comes out to watch. Then security follows. They get beaten up, and they cut to the back, and there is Alex Marvez in front of the Blackpool Combat Club's locker room that has been chained shut because they've been having their team meeting, and now they've been locked and cannot come to help John Moxley, which I like that
Clever.
detail that they added in here because it would have been a glaring hole to not address. And Moxley is trying to fight them back. Ethan Page drops him with a boot. MJF comes out and he's conflicted. He doesn't know if he should help or not. Runs down and he ends up stopping the attack and he fires Stokely Hathaway, leading to Ethan Page nailing MJF with a boot and the Ego's Edge, and ends with Morrissey, W. Morrissey, lifting up lifting up MJF and choke slamming him through the timekeeper's table. And that is how the show ends, with MJF. So whether this is a full split of MJF from the firm, or one of those stories where MJF is going to turn on everybody, and they were all doing this for our amusement, and MJF just had himself killed on this show.
So again, because this is MJF, that might be the first inclination. Is that he's still going to turn on us at the end. I feel like this was.
I hate those angles. Like if this is the firm, we were all working together to do this. I just had them murder me.
Well, the fact that they shot this angle, I think, is deliberately done to take us off that trail, and I think I trust MJF enough to be able to tell us a story that makes sense, that isn't simply like, I let these guys beat the shit out of me just to kind of trick you, John Moxley. I feel like I give them a bit more credit, to come up with a reason than that, and for that reason, I'm that much more curious about where this is going. Is this an actual babyface turn for MJF? And if so, what is the sort of end goal of this? It's again, very intriguing to see them go in this direction and seeing how they might get out of this with something satisfying.
Are you intrigued by just the direction of MJF right now, or like, is this enhancing the Moxley match that is the match that they're selling? Because this was discussed, like Punk and Moxley, they kind of deviated away from your traditional build, and you didn't even know the match until the end. It was also like two baby faces going into that match as well. Like, would this be stronger if we just had MJF as your despicable heel, Moxley as your beloved babyface, or is this like they're trying something different here, where they're kind of going for that? Like, is MJF a babyface or not?
Yeah. I'm interested just because to see how they'll tell the rest of the story with MJF. But I understand what you're saying in that it's a very sort of MJF focused story that might kind of take away from the rivalry and the grudge that he has personally with John Moxley. Now we're kind of being distracted by MJF versus the firm and how he might get revenge on the firm. Is MJF truly, trying to trick the audience? When the focus prior to this was strictly between the two and their hatred for one another, does this kind of take away from it? Again, I have a lot of faith, in both John Moxley and MJF in order to for them to tell us a pretty cohesive story by the end of it. I'm still probably of the mind that this is all somehow being done to swerve. How they explain the post-match attack tonight, they'll have to come up with something probably quite creative. But there's still time. What are we, like, less than 30 days out? 3 episodes, right?
3 more episodes of Dynamite.
Okay, so there's still a lot more story to be told.